Officially called the Lone Star State, Texas was the 28th state to join the United States on December 29, 1845. Texas borders Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. For the Lone Star State, that's enough. Here are 15 facts about Texas you probably didn't know. The most widely accepted theory of how North America was settled is that the first settlers, known as Paleo-Native Americans, arrived between 15,000 and 13,000 BC. They came into the continent from the far east of modern-day Russia via the Bering Strait into what is now Alaska. Some of the first evidence of human activity in modern-day Texas dates back at least 12,000 years ago. They were spread throughout modern-day Texas, along with the Pueblos of the southwest and the Apaches of the north. The Comanche tribes mostly lived closer to Texas Panhandle region, while the Caddo tribes lived by the northeastern border of modern-day Texas along the Red River. Different tribes came and went over the early centuries of European settlement in North America. The only officially recognized tribes in Texas today include the Kickapoos, the Alabama Coshawta, and the East Leyte del Sur Pueblo. The first Spanish explorers to get within sight of modern-day Texas was the conquistador and cartographer Alonso Alvarez de Pineda, who passed by the Gulf of Mexico and created the first European maps of Texas coastline in 1520. From this point, Spain claimed the region as a part of their colony, New Spain. In the end, only 4 survived, including the famed Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, who explored much of the modern-day state before finding his way to the west coast of Mexico, where Spain had some settlements. Unfortunately, de Vaca didn't have any mapping tools, so he couldn't map out the regions he explored. Busy with conquering and colonizing modern-day Mexico, Spain left the Texas region more or less alone for the next 160 years. The expedition was given poor directions, and in 1685 they landed at Matagorda Bay on the coast of modern-day Texas. Following the Mexican War of Independence in 1821, the region now known as Texas came under Mexican control. The region was still unsettled, so the Mexican government allowed U.S. citizens to move into Texas and settle there. In the 1830s, the Mexican government misgoverned the Texas region, which unsurprisingly upset both Mexican and American residents of Mexican Texas. To put it unreasonably simply, this ultimately led to hostilities between Texians, residents of Mexican Texas, and the Mexican military, which spurred Texas to declare its independence from Mexico in 1836, establishing itself as the Republic of Texas. The U.S. government recognized the Republic of Texas but not Mexico, who still considered them a rebellious part of their country. The sovereign state lasted some 10 years before it was annexed by the U.S. government and made into Texas on December 29, 1845. Texas' nickname is the Lone Star State because the Republic of Texas national flag featured a lone star, which can also be found on the modern state's flag. The first time they went to war was during the Texas Revolution in 1836, primarily motivated by the Texans' desire to own their own slaves. Their motivations were no different when the American Civil War came around in the 1860s. In fact, by this time, the number of enslaved people within the region had more than tripled, so it was no surprise that Texas joined the Confederate States of America in 1861. No major battles took place in Texas. Instead, the state was a massive contributor of men and munitions to the Confederate cause. Both Kennedy and John Connally, then the Texas governor, were struck down by bullets. Oswald himself was assassinated 2 days later while being transferred to another jail. In the 17th century, when Spain controlled modern-day Texas, several Catholic missions were founded in the region. Over time several different names were applied to the region, which is now Texas, including New Philippines and the province of the Tajus. The latter eventually evolved into the province of Tajus when the region came under Mexican control before becoming the Republic of Texas and the state of Texas. What remains today in the state's name is the word friend, which is quite fitting for such a friendly state. Not every household could afford electric refrigeration in 1927, so they relied on companies that sold big blocks of ice to keep their food fresh. While primarily selling only ice, the company soon began to sell various food items. People, time and time again, think that Tex-Mex is the type of Mexican food that's eaten in Texas. It's true that Tex-Mex originated in Texas. Still, it is the way it is today because it was an Americanization of Mexican food at the time when Texas became a state and was adapted more and more to the American palate over time. Authentic Tex-Mex, and by that, I mean Texan Mexican, couldn't be more different. Texan Mexican cuisine is much closer to the Mexican food found in Mexico's northern regions and, as such, is closer to the food that was eaten in the area long before Europeans first arrived. Next time you're in Texas, try a taco from a local taqueria, taco restaurant, instead of Taco Bell and taste the difference for yourself. Bracken Cave can be found just a little outside of San Antonio in the state's south, and it's in this very cave that the world's largest known colony of bats roosts every summer. The bats are Mexican free-tailed bats and are the most commonly found